You really think you can just walk over me and get away with it? I stood at the kitchen doorway, clutching the shattered glass from last night. On the table lay scattered bills and Dominic's unpaid utility bills, the air thick with the smell of coffee and alcohol. Leaning against the table, he held his phone, his eyes cold as if mocking my rage. I looked at him, said nothing for a second, and then threw the stack of bills on the table. You hit it again last night, didn't you? Do you think I didn't notice you meeting up with Paul out there? Dominic's lips twitched slightly, but he didn't deny it, just raised an eyebrow. You're making a mountain out of a molehill, he said. We're all adults. We just have to socialize occasionally. I clenched my fist and my hand turned white with force. Socializing? Then explain what happened in the bar last night. Did you tell that waitress in my face that I was wearing a fool's hat? There was a flash of impatience in his eyes. She was just kidding. You're too sensitive. I sneered, joking. Dominic, that's humiliation, and it's deliberate. You always make excuses to cover up your cowardice and laziness. The argument exploded like fireworks in our tiny kitchen, its shrill yet piercing sound. Sunlight streamed through the shutters, casting scattered bills, shattered glass, and our silhouettes on the table. In that instant, I realized our relationship had long since shattered into irreparable fragments. The past 5 years have been like an endless river, wearing me down while quietly shaping me. After graduating from university, I started as an assistant designer at an advertising agency with a modest salary and a minor role. Every morning, I'd be the first to arrive at the office, organizing printer paper and preparing coffee for the team, yet never received a word of thanks. The manager never singled me out for praise during meetings, always letting those who spoke loudly and flattered me steal the spotlight. No matter how hard I worked, I remained the one quietly completing tasks in the shadows. I remember a time when I designed a complete brand proposal for a key client. I worked through the night, meticulously refining every color scheme, font choice, and layout. At the next meeting, the manager casually remarked to the client, "This proposal is good, but it could use some adjustments." The client looked at me expectantly, while the manager dismissed it as a casual suggestion. I suppressed my irritation, smiled, and nodded, but silently took note of every name, every moment of neglect and disregard in that exchange. In life, the subtle humiliations Dominic never makes public are more insidious and merciless than workplace taunts. During his first days in the suburbs, he'd mock me with a dismissive tone in front of friends. "Emma, you're dressed like a student again today," or "Your cooking skills are just basic home cooking." Each time, he'd mask his disdain with humor, and I stood by helplessly. At neighborhood gatherings, he'd deliberately ignore me, focusing on other women, while I awkwardly stood aside, listening to their laughter pierce my chest like needles. This humiliation wasn't just verbal, it was a crushing combination of actions and environment. One weekend, while I was fixing a leaky pipe alone, water spilled everywhere. He stood by, watching with cold eyes, occasionally snapping, "Are you sure this will work?" His tone was laced with doubt and impatience. He failed to grasp that I wasn't incompetent, but simply accustomed to quietly handling things until someone had to step up. That moment, as I looked at the water-stained towel in my hand and the damp floor, it hit me. I needed to learn independence, and I needed to learn how to fight back with wisdom against those who looked down on me. In my professional life, I once faced public humiliation from my supervisor. During a team meeting, I proposed an innovative idea, expecting approval. To my surprise, the supervisor bluntly stated, "Emma, your concept is way too simplistic. This kind of proposal has already been thought of by others." My colleagues exchanged amused chuckles, while I could only lower my head to hide my embarrassment. That moment taught me, merit alone doesn't guarantee recognition. True success requires making your value undeniable and facts unshakable. These experiences kept reminding me that oppression and humiliation weren't the end, but rather a way to build strength. I started paying close attention to details, observing, documenting, and planning. Every sneer from Dominic at gatherings, every unfair colleague's judgment, every boss's harsh remark, I carefully recorded in my mind and notes. I learned to analyze people's habits, vulnerabilities, and weaknesses, and to stay calm and composed in critical moments. Through family and social engagements, I gradually found my footing. I enrolled in evening design courses to hone advanced software skills, while taking on freelance projects on weekends to build client networks and professional credibility. I realized that only by continuously improving myself could I, one day, make those who once underestimated me face their defeat with undeniable truth. Most importantly, I learned to observe Dominic's patterns. He always builds superiority through contempt and humor in group settings, yet never acknowledges others' true capabilities. I began to exploit this, quietly gathering evidence and information in household finances, social situations, and daily life, waiting for a situation he couldn't handle. After that bar incident, I realized his behavior wasn't just frivolous, it was habitual humiliation and manipulation. I couldn't tolerate it anymore, nor could I impulsively seek revenge. What I needed was precise, calm strategy. I began building my own network, connecting with partners, clients, and resources in the advertising industry while quietly refining my life arrangements and plans. I noticed that Dominic's company had some internal projects with strict external collaboration requirements, whereas I possessed industry resources that could influence project success. This meant that when I chose the right moment to act, I could combine past humiliations with accumulated capabilities to create a situation that left him powerless to resist. Over the past 5 years, every humiliation, contempt, and indifference has been a training ground for my calmness and insight. I've learned to observe with a smile, gather evidence in silence, and brew counterattacks in the ordinary. I know revenge isn't a spur-of-the-moment impulse, but a meticulously planned, step-by-step operation. That night, I sat in the warm glow of my study, compiling a list of past events, every neglected effort, every humiliating word, every time Dominic looked down on me. On the right side of my notebook, I marked each exploitable weakness and opportunity. These records weren't for revenge, but to ensure that when action began, I wouldn't be swayed by emotions, but would act with calm, precision, and unstoppable force. The night deepened outside the window, with distant car engines occasionally echoing through the streets. Closing my notebook, I glanced toward Dominic's room where he was typing away at his computer, completely unaware. He still believed I was merely tolerating, while I had already been plotting an operation that would make him tremble. The past humiliations and oppression were no longer wounds. They had become catalysts, making me stronger and revealing the truth. Revenge would be a calm yet unstoppable storm. When I began my work, I maintained a deliberate pace, not out of impulsive action, but to ensure meticulous execution. My approach started with his strongest point, professional competence. Leveraging my industry connections, I systematically reviewed each collaborative project under his team's responsibility, compiling a list of frequently overlooked timelines and security vulnerabilities. I discreetly flagged critical issues to the project stakeholders while providing pre-prepared solutions when necessary. During meetings, he was compelled to immediately explain delays and vulnerabilities, with every attempt at justification being systematically countered by my prepared emails containing timestamps. Then I exploited his social vulnerability. At the industry gala, I had key clients receive a summary of his missteps in advance, thrusting him into the spotlight. As public criticism mounted, Dominic stammered with a sallow complexion, while Paul beside him couldn't speak up. The final move was precision strike. I compiled his internal group chat records showing his condescension toward others into verifiable evidence, submitting them to HR and the project manager. That night, he trembled in the company hallway, pleading for my help in a voice so low it sounded like begging for charity. I handed him a printed list of errors he'd either written himself or overlooked. No shouting, no tearing, just calm accusations and irrefutable facts. Revenge is not about destroying his life, but about letting the me who was once despised regain the dignity he was deprived of. Watching him shiver and bow his head before his colleagues, the sense of justice finally restored is calmer than any anger.